Hello everyone, No One of Consequence here with episode 4 of my remastered original Dungeons & Dragons adventure module playthrough series. So as always, spoiler alert, in this video I will be revealing details about this adventure module. And as a reminder, here is the roster of the player characters. There are 6 different characters being controlled by 4 different players. And here is the roster of NPCs associated with the party. No changes since last time. We have the characters' 2 full-time animal handlers, Quan and Jasmine, and then all of the various animals that they are responsible for caring for. So where we left off last time, the characters had just returned to the inn after spending the day exploring the Moat House ruins. They arrived to find that Rory the Halfling had returned from his all-too-brief retirement to relate ominous news he had received from Valerial. The characters learned that their nemesis, Istan, had been rescued from the Valerial jail by war-grinding bugbears. Furthermore, the raiding party was apparently being led by the character's other nemesis, Sir Havad Quinn. The group was last seen riding cross-country to the east, which meant that they could have actually arrived in the region around Hommlet before the characters did. It was also at this point that the cleric Duke Lionheart revealed that his true name was Quint Pendergast, and that he is originally from this region, the Viscounty of Verbank. He further revealed that he was on a secret mission from the Church of St. Cuthbert to find and join an adventuring group dedicated to fighting evil. Then, if they seemed competent, he was to steer them back here to Verbank. It turned out that the last part of that plan was unnecessary, since events brought the characters to Verbank anyway, but Quint felt that it was time to reveal his true name and purpose for being here. So here's the updated character roster, now showing Quint's true name, circled there at the bottom. Next morning, the characters set out for what they hoped would be their final assault on the Moat House ruins. Rory the Halfling did not immediately return to his home, but he also did not accompany the characters on this trip. However, Jasmine and Quan were brought along to watch the animals, and Felipe the guard dog would be left behind to help protect them while the characters entered the Moat House ruins. The characters returned to a side passage they had found the previous day but did not explore. They suspected that it might lead to the chambers of the evil cleric, which the gnolls had warned them about on the previous day. At a bend in the passageway, the characters found a well-constructed door that was securely locked. Unlike most other doors down here, this door looked new, strongly built, and well-maintained. Aramis the fighter and Obrak the dwarf used their combined strength to break through the door, and then they charged in. At the far end of a long hallway, they could see some black-clad warrior types standing guard. Obrak and Aramis were quickly followed to the door by Quint and Gorbadoc. Back out in the passageway, Thorl and Garrett noticed that Spugnor was once again lingering in the rear. They began openly threatening Spugnor, telling him to get inside and help with the battle, or he would be in a worse situation out here than he would be in there. While Thorl and Garrett continued to threaten him with violence, Spugnor slowly backed into the hallway, where the others were already fighting up ahead. Back at the scene of the actual fighting, Aramis, Obrak, and Quint had just defeated the on-duty guards, when several more of them, along with their sergeant, rushed to meet the threat. This screenshot was taken several rounds later, after a lot of things had happened during the battle, so I'm going to work my way around this view and explain in detail everything that has gone on. This is a labeled version which I had made for my players many years ago. I'll start at the bottom and work counterclockwise from there. So the label says, Thief and Fighter affected by Loreth's Hold Person spell, out of fight ever since. So we're talking, of course, about Garrett the Thief and Aramis the Fighter. The evil priest, whose name is Loreth, cast a Hold Person spell at the party early in the battle. These two characters failed their saving throw versus magic and have been paralyzed at this location ever since. Moving on, guards killed in battle or after being affected by the mage's sleep spell. Also early in the battle, Thorol cast a sleep spell at the crowd of guards and their sergeant. Most of them failed their saving throw and dropped to the floor in a comatose slumber. After that, it was easy for the second-rate characters to dispatch them, while the more tank-like characters pushed further into the room. Moving on, Loreth's lieutenant, affected by Hold Person spell from party cleric and then subsequently killed. Quint the cleric had cast his own Hold Person spell at the evil cleric's lieutenant, who failed his saving throw against it. He became paralyzed and was then quickly eliminated by the characters. Loreth fights for his life, tried to cast Hold Person and cause disease at the cleric, but all saving throws were successful. He has just inflicted a serious melee attack on the cleric, as can be seen by the cleric's hit point bar. Quint the cleric has spent the last few rounds fighting Loreth in one-on-one combat. Loreth tried casting spells against Quint, which failed. However, the evil cleric had better luck at attacking Quint with melee weapons and has brought him down to dangerously low hit points. Cleric melees with Loreth from atop the table, halfling moving around to engage. Cleric has cast Protection from Evil on himself. While Quint is fighting Loreth from atop the table, Gorbadoc is circling around to engage him as well. During this battle, Quint managed to cast Protection from Evil on himself, which makes it more difficult for Loreth to hit him. Spugnor killed by Dwarf after accepting Loreth's offer to join him and then casting Sleep at the remaining PCs. Earlier in the battle, after it was clear that the characters were going to defeat Loreth's guards, the evil cleric offered to let the characters join him as his new warriors and guards. He offered them good pay, plenty of opportunities to loot, and advancement in rank if they proved worthy. Spugnor, remembering the abuse he had received, especially from Thorol, declared that he was accepting Loreth's offer. He then began casting a sleep spell, but he directed it against the other characters. Unfortunately for him, everyone succeeded in making their saving throw and were unaffected by the spell. In return, Obrak swung his battle axe and killed Spugnor with one blow as payment for his treachery. Mage tried to cast Web at Loreth, but his magic item meant the spell had no effect. And finally, earlier in the battle, Thorol had cast a Web spell at Loreth. However, for reasons unknown at the time, the web slipped from Loreth and dropped to the floor. The characters later found out this was due to a magic item he was wearing. And then at the top of the scene, you can see the useless webs lying on the floor. By this point in the battle, Loreth has knocked Quint down into negative hit points. Per my house rules, he is now unconscious, bleeding out, and will soon be dead. However, Obrak moved up to help Gorbadoc and immediately scored a critical hit against the evil cleric. Not only that, but he also rolled the maximum possible damage for his attack. Next round, it was Gorbadoc's turn to roll a critical hit, the results of which you can see in the screenshot. Obrak scored a normal hit as well, and Thorol has applied healing. I don't remember if it was a potion or what, but he's applied healing to Quint and got him back on his feet. And finally, Gorbolok scored yet another critical hit against the evil cleric, which inflicted enough damage to finish him off. While looting Loreth's private quarters, the characters found many documents. Most were mundane records of raids conducted, loot gathered and forwarded to where was not clear, and similar matters. However, there were many references to a nearby village called Nulb. The characters also found a copy of this particular letter, dated only a few days ago. You can pause the video and read it if you like, but it is almost certain proof that Istant and Sir Hava did in fact come to this area, arriving at the moat house only a few days before the characters. There is now the question of what to do about Spugnor. Given the character's troubled history with the mage, they were afraid to just leave his body at the moat house. The villagers might raise questions about what had really happened to Spugnor if he were to simply just disappear. So the characters decided the best thing to do would be to bring his body back to Hommlet and hope that everyone believed their story about his betrayal. First, the characters took Spugnor to the local druid, asking him to bury the body. However, the druid, named Jeru, wanted nothing to do with the situation. Instead, he said that the village council needed to be informed immediately of all that the characters had learned at the moat house, and also of what had happened to Spugnor. The village council convened later that same day, and the characters were asked to explain everything they had seen and done at the moat house over the past few days. When they were finished, the village council thanked the characters for their efforts at the moat house and asked them to follow up on the clues they had found amongst Loreth's papers. However, the council also admonished the characters for killing Spugnor instead of trying to subdue him and bring him back to Hommlet alive. They explained that Spugnor was actually from a rich and well-connected family in the city of Greyhawk, and he had somehow gotten it in his mind to become a magic user. The council went on to say that his death could cause complications for the village, perhaps even for the Viscount of Verbabank himself. Turjan, the priest at the local Church of St. Cuthbert, offered to escort Spugnor's body to the city of Verbabank and to his superior's church to help negotiate a resurrection for Spugnor. However, Turjan also said it would take a sizable donation to the church to make all this happen. The characters were very strongly encouraged to come up with the donation, so they set about gathering the funds. Over the next couple of days, the characters stripped Loreth's quarters of everything of value, including the furniture itself. Much of it they sold to the local traders, who paid cash for the loot. Once the required amount of gold was gathered, Quint brought the payment to Turjan to pay for Spugnor's resurrection in Verbabank. Rory the Halfling was still not interested in rejoining the adventuring party, but he said he would go along with Turjan to Verbabank. He promised to represent the characters' interests there and ensure that the money was actually used to pay for Spugnor's resurrection. Then he would send word back to Hommlet before returning to his home at the halfling village of Littleborough. All right, well, that's all I have for now. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button. If you can, please leave a comment. Let me know what you think. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. If you can, please share the video. And anything you can do to help support the channel, I appreciate it. Thanks again. Bye for now.